Hey gang, Roden here. Welcome on back to the Cade and another episode of Sports Saturday. And with the Formula One Monaco Grand Prix taking place this weekend in the Principality on the shores of the Mediterranean Sea, we figured this gives us as good an excuse as any to get back on the track and try a racing game. We did this before in this series when we highlighted Formula One Championship Edition for the PlayStation 1. But for this week, we're going to go back even further. We're going to go back to 1992 to 1994, and we're going to play one of my favorite arcade games of the era by far, but also a game that I think you could make the argument, the realistic argument, that if it wasn't for Virtua Racing and the 3D elements that were incorporated into it, that we may not have, at least in some respects, a lot of the racing games we've been able to enjoy over the ensuing 30 years. Now, that's a big claim, I know, and I hope to back it up as we move along. But this game, as I said, came out in arcades in 1992 in Japan, North America, Europe, and Australia. It was released worldwide everywhere else in 1993. It was released in consoles on the Sega Genesis first in 1994 in March. It was then reissued on the Sega 32 edition that plugged into the Genesis/MegaDrive in November of that year, and then it was reissued on the Sega Saturn the following year in November of 1995. It was subsequently released on the PlayStation 2 in February of 2004, but only in Japan, and then in 2019 it was issued in Japan first on the Nintendo Switch, and then released worldwide in the summer of that year. Now, if you are not familiar with this game, if you've never played it before, it is not a complicated game to play, which is part of the fun. You have these options here where you can just play what's called virtual racing, which is the standard mode. You can do a time attack, you can do two players versus each other, and then you've got different records, and then you've got other options to play as well. We're just going to do standard virtual racing. And obviously we're going to play as the Formula car because, again, we are highlighting the F1 Monaco Grand Prix, which is the crown jewel on the calendar, but we can't play Monaco on this game because it's not a licensed game with the FIA. But the nice thing is that originally this game had 3 tracks, Big Force Bay Bridge at Acropolis, and then with this deluxe version they added 2 more in Highland and Sand Park. Now what we're going to do over the course of the next half an hour or so is we're just going to go racing, because why not? It's not like we do it all that often. We also played F1 Race of Champions, as I recall, in this series. I believe that was back in the mid-20s in this series. It's crazy to think that we're closing in on 50 episodes now. Also, speaking of that, I hope you guys have been enjoying our revisitation of Metal Gear Solid for the PlayStation 1. It is still one of my favorite games to play, but it's been a long time since I played it. And it is one that I'm definitely feeling the gap in the last time I played it until now, because as I've already made it clear, I've died a few more times than I planned so far in this playthrough, but it's been a lot of fun, and hope you've been enjoying that. That will pick up again on Monday. 3, 2, 1, go. So, unlike most modern racing games, there is no real in-depth stuff where you have to qualify or earn a license or things like that. They put you in a car and you go racing. Now, your C button, if you remember the MegaDrive layout, it's an A, B, and C setup with the buttons. C is your gas. B will change the perspective that you're seeing. So if I go here, that backs it up. Or I go way up. And that just helps you see things a little bit better. I prefer to be down a little bit lower behind the car. And then your A button is brake, but really, at least on this course, you don't need it. Now, while you're obviously trying to catch the cars in front of you, there is a timer you'll see in the up center of this screen that is counting down. Now, in the arcade, if you weren't able to hit these checkpoints and get these little extra time bonuses, and that timer hit 0, then the race ended before you reached the checkered flag. Now, a standard race in this game is 5 laps. You don't have to pit. Oh, but I cooked it over too much in that hairpin. And that's the thing you got to worry about, is if you shoot too wide and go off the track, you can very easily spin out and you lose a bunch of time. And if you hit anything like another car, or if I was hit this fence, or if I was hit the side of the bridge I'm about to go over, you will crash. It won't destroy your car, but you'll flip and then you'll land on your wheels, but you will lose more time. So the whole notion of this game is to learn how to be smooth going through these corners and not lose too much speed. There, that was a lot better. So I went 41.065, which is almost 3 seconds faster than my first lap, and over a second and a half faster than my last lap. And that's what you want. And most people will tell you that in a racing game, you just want to go flat out, but if you let off the gas enough going through these corners, you actually don't lose as much speed as you think. So we took a full half a second off of that one, but we're still sitting in 7th. So it's the final lap. Let's see if we can catch these guys ahead of us. I don't think we're gonna. Well, we got this car that's creeping up in our view. Maybe we can get him. Nope. Spun it out. Kind of did what Lando Norris was doing last week at Imola, trying to catch Max Verstappen, and just didn't get there in time. So we finished in a respectable 7th place, which is in Formula 1 parlay is a points-paying position. It's towards the end of the list, but not too bad. Now, unlike most modern games as well, you don't get to run in sequence of a series of races. So it is one where, in this case, it's a one-and-done situation, but that's not terrible. So we're not going to worry about replay. But we'll try the Bay Bridge now and see what we get. Now this game, the interesting story about this game was it was created by, of course, the famous Sega AM2 division, which was like the skunk works deep inside the game development department of Sega back in the early 90s. And of course, Yu Suzuki, who was the head of the AM2 division, spearheaded this game. And it was created mainly as just a proof of concept. It was designed to show what 3D graphics were, the capabilities were 30 years ago. And it proved so popular with the developers that they went ahead and said, let's put it into arcades as a standalone title. Now, this game was initially released as a standalone cabinet, and then was released in a twin cabinet, which allowed you, because it had a 2-player option, to race against another player. The way I remember playing it was a standalone cabinet that also was one of the first games that I could remember that had a force feedback system in the steering wheel. Now, that seems extremely commonplace nowadays. And I have a force feedback wheel here on my PlayStation rig. I wish I would have one for my computer, but at some point I will get one. But it was such a radical thing to have a steering wheel giving you actual feel in terms of if you were going too far into a turn, or if you were hitting a rough patch. Whoop, I hit the wrong button. I hit the button that adjusted the view. That's something you didn't have to worry about playing on the cabinet for sure. So we ran 51.1 on that first lap, which was horrible. We're dead last. We have some serious catching up to do. So we're not in last anymore. We are in second to last. We went right through those bollards. We went right off the track. We would have so many black and white flags and time penalties at this point. If we were driving an actual Formula 1 race, it'd be silly. So we're back in 16th. Now, if it looks like I'm having difficulty with this track, it is. It's a challenging track, in part because one of the problems of playing on the cabinet was there was no guarantee that you would make it to this track. If you didn't finish the first one, ooh, as I hit the wall. See, that's what happens, is that you flip the car over. As I was saying, since there was no guarantee that you could actually make it to this track, not many racers that I know of now would be very good at it, even by today's standards. And we still haven't run out of time yet, but we're getting close. Oh, we gotta get off the grass. Can we make it back around to the finish line in time? 2, 1. No, we did not make it. And that's the risk you run. So to make each cabinet, it ended up costing Sega about 20 grand at the time in 1992, which translates to about 40 grand now. And to this day, the actual rankings of it are still really high. Still really high. The arcade version still ranks at 92 or 90%. Of all versions, this version on the MegaDrive was ranked at 84%, but I'm actually playing the 32-bit or 32X version. That came in at 93%. And that's the same across the board between games or publications like Edge, EGM, Famitsu, GameFan, Next Generation, Megatech, Sega Saturn Magazine, Ultimate Future Games. And this game actually took home quite a few awards in 1992. It was listed as 2nd best graphics, 8th best action, 10th best direction. It received the AMOA award for most innovative new technology. GamePro in 1994 gave it its award at the Consumer Electronics Show for Best Genesis Game. GameFan Mega Awards in 1994 awarded it the Best Driving/Racing Game. Video Games gave it 2nd Best 32X Game. And then when they were doing their rankings of the best games of all time, Next Generation in 1996 ranked Virtual Racing 11th all time. Mega in 1994 gave it the ranking of the 4th best MegaDrive game of all time. And then in 2015, IGN ranked it as the 3rd most influential driving game ever. So let's try Bay Bridge again, because I want to see if I can actually finish this race. Now, in its review for this game, EGM called it a racing masterpiece and said, quote, lifelike racing sensations are extremely impressive and exciting, and called it one of the most realistic games ever made. Now, by modern standards, you can look at this and go, oh my god, this is anything but realistic. It's super pixelated. And the tracks aren't real. And the mechanics aren't really all that great. But you have to bear in mind, this 30 years ago was way before we even got the original Gran Turismo. It was even before Namco came out with Ridge Racer, which was the first really 32X racing game that Sony came up with at the time, which was also a game I really liked. And that series ended up going on to get quite a lot of notoriety and fame as well. But by comparison to games like Forza and Gran Turismo and all the current gen racing games that are out there, this is about as basic as you could think. But I still stand by my thesis that if it wasn't for this game, graphically, and establishing the idea that there was a template, ooh, I smashed right in the back of that car. That would have taken us both out. If it wasn't for virtual racing, creating the three-dimensional polygonal template, and proving that the concept was doable with current-gen technology back in the early to mid-90s, we may very well not have those games. Now, you could easily make the claim that, yes, somebody else would have come along and made something on par with this, and I would agree with you. Oof, as I still right in the back of that car. Does not like to get out of the way. However, Yu Suzuki and his team at Sega AM2 came up with this. And its impact on what not just gamers were about to be in store for, but also what developers could come up with. Ooh, he's gonna hit again. Just not doing well on this track. And you gotta be able to stay off the white lines. Staying off the white lines will allow you to not scrub too much speed. Alright, we're doing better. But are we going to get to the finish line in time again? 3, 2, 1. No, we did not. So we whiffed again. So we still only made it to lap 3, and just at the very end of it. Alright, so back to Big Forest we will go. Although I'm also tempted to see if any of these ones are better. Actually, let's go this way first. Let's check out Highland, because this is definitely a track I've never raced on. Definitely need a chance of perspective on this one, because it is gonna take some getting used to on this one. Now, if there is a drawback to this game, it is because the graphics are so rudimentary, and it is hard to get any sort of real idea of what's coming up ahead of you. That it does make this game a lot more challenging. But again, that wasn't very uncommon for a lot of racing games at the time. Like, one of the games I was testing to see if we were going to highlight it today was I also went back and checked out EA Sports F1 games from 2001 and 2002. Those games, by comparison to this, are impossible to gauge. Oh, wow, that was a hell of a pass. Where you are in relation to the track at pretty much any time. Like, everything gets right on you so fast that it's really a game that you could not realistically drive. As I keep hitting that island there, without a wheel. Trying to race it with a controller is nigh on impossible. And if there's one issue I have with modern racing games especially, it is that they require you to spend a considerable amount of money I always get a little bit overzealous coming out of that chicane. On a steering wheel. I should be toast hitting that wall like that. We'll cut that corner just right. Hit that wall. That wasn't good, but it still didn't wipe me out. I got enough to be able to make it. I'm not going to make it back to the start line. Nope. Game over again. But the idea that now, in order to play a modern racing game, you are just about required, doesn't matter if it's Forza, Gran Turismo, whatever, but you have to go, on top of spending the $60 to get the game, you've got to spend a minimum of $200 to $300 on a steering wheel setup that you can then plug into your console to be able to play the game. And it's because the way the games are built and having a controller, where it used to be acceptable to do that, nowadays the controller just does not have the responses that a steering wheel has. It's ergonomically, it's not the same way, and at some point, if I can get a wheel that I can set up on my computer, which I should be able to, I will probably do a video that highlights that at some stage. Because that was the thing that I found in playing Gran Turismo across Gran Turismo 5, 6, Sport, and now 7. Was that you hit a difficulty point where you just simply, with the controller, you could not keep up with the difficulty curve of the game. It just became too much. And it didn't matter how much practice you did. It didn't matter. Oh, that crunched. I would be quite deceased at this point, hitting the bridge like that. I hit that head on. Good night, nurse. But anyway, that is something that I found once I went and got a steering wheel. And I didn't go super crazy with it. I spin out again. Damn it. Whoa, and I got clipped. Is that when I was playing Gran Turismo Sport, my best laps using a controller were 4 seconds a lap slower than when I got my wheel and started using it. And in racing, 4 seconds is an eternity. But that speaks to the fact of what you get in terms of response and what you are able to do with the mechanics and the physics of the game. If I was able to play this game with a steering wheel, would I be able to go faster than 41.5? Probably. I'd be able to go a lot faster if I was playing this on the cabinet, because again, you're getting that direct feedback from the game. The game is telling you if you go too hard into these corners, you're going to spin out. And there's a line that I remember from an old episode of the BBC show Top Gear where Jackie Stewart was trying to teach James May, a.k.a. Captain Slow. And if you don't know who Jackie Stewart is, Jackie Stewart was a 3-time Formula One champion back in the 60s. One of the greatest drivers of his era by a long way. Anyway, he was schooling Captain Slow on how to get faster as a driver and be more consistent in high-performance cars. And one of the things that Jackie said to him was, you never put your brake on until you know you don't have to take it off. So like on that lap, I ran a 40.7, which I think is up there with my best lap overall in the game. I'm still sitting in 7th. But as you see, the next car ahead of me is like 2 seconds up the road, and I'm not going to catch him. Now, could I argue that if I had a wheel, I'd be able to? Maybe. But again, I'd also be able to consistently pull in better laps. So I wouldn't be this far down the pack. And I still ran a 40.05. And I finished in 7th again. So, but that in a nutshell is Virtua Racing for the Sega Genesis / MegaDrive / 32X, and I could go on with all the other consoles it's been ported onto over the years. But we get back to our usual 2 questions. Is this a good game? I mean, if you like racing games, I would say, yeah, absolutely it's a good game. For its time, it was extremely revolutionary. It did not require a whole lot of knowledge about racing, or, it wasn't so intensive that you had to spend X number of hours getting ready for a race. You just jumped in the seat, popped in a quarter, or fired it up on your Genesis, and away you went. Which was, that's still just a wicked crash. And graphically, for its time in 1992, 93, 94, this was so far ahead of what everybody, pretty much short of what Nintendo was doing with the 64. Like, everybody remembers when Mario Kart 64 came out and how big a deal that was. And graphically, I mean, that's a great game. I mean, Mario Kart has always been a really, really strong game in terms of its design. And it translated really, really well from the Super NES to the 64. But a lot of other games at the time didn't have that luxury in terms of racing games. And after Virtual Racing, we saw the advent of, with the PlayStation and then eventually with the Xbox, you had companies who were able to start improving on this initial design that AM2 came up with, and creating the games like Gran Turismo, like Forza, like even Twisted Metal, and all the racing games, the F1 series, all the stuff that we really enjoy today. So not only is it a good game, again, I would say it's a very, very important game in the evolutionary sense of the medium. Is this a game they can make today? Not only could they make it today, I would dare say if Sega had the ability to do so, with modern graphics engines and things like that, this game could be demonstrably better. Because as a straight arcade racer, which is in fairly short supply, I've found in the current catalogs of most consoles and even on PCs, just having a straight racing game that isn't as wide scale as a Forza or Gran Turismo. And again, I'm not decrying either of those series. It's just, if you just want to be able to pop a game in and do a race for 5 laps, like you can in this game, and not have a lot of bells and whistles attached, you can absolutely make a version of it nowadays. And you could probably make it graphically much better. Or, even if you wanted to, you could make it in a similar style to this, but round out a lot of the polygonal edges, add a bit more to it, and I don't think any reason why it wouldn't be a solid AA independent title that people would probably be interested in playing. So, if you've never tried it, again, you can play it on the Genesis, MegaDrive, 32X. There was a PlayStation 2 port of it that came out, if you can find, but that's only in Japan. It's on the Saturn, and then it was also released on the Nintendo Switch. So if you can find a copy of it and you want to give it a whirl, let me know. Let me know what your experience with it was. What did you think of it when you played it in the arcade? Is it something you thought translated well from the arcade to the console? And in the meantime, that is our Sports Saturday for this week. If you've been enjoying the content, as always, hit that like button, subscribe if you are new, and ring the bell to be notified of new episodes as they come out. We will have Sucker Punch Sunday coming up tomorrow, where we'll play a classic fighting or fighting platform-based game from the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th generation. And then come Monday, even though it's Memorial Day, we've already recorded it, so it will go out. We will be carrying on with our revisitation of Metal Gear Solid from the PS1 from 1998. And again, it's been a lot of fun. I don't know how many episodes that's going to go, because it's actually, I think we've recorded 7 or 8 episodes at this stage. And I think we might get in another 7 or 8 more before we hit the end, but we'll see. Be sure to follow us on social media through Instagram and Threads at Ronan's Retrograde. Help spread the word about us as we continue to grow this channel and make it bigger and better. And the usual, if there is a game you'd like to see us feature from the Nintendo Entertainment System, the Super Nintendo, Sega Master System, Sega Genesis, or Mega Drive, SNK, Neo-Geo, Nintendo 64, Sega Saturn, Sega Dreamcast, PlayStation 1, or PlayStation 2, leave it in the comments below or drop me a line on social media. It can be any game from those consoles that you want. My name is Ronan. It has been great to spend this Sports Saturday with you. Be safe, be well, happy gaming. We'll talk to you tomorrow for Sucker Punch Sunday. Bye.